channel. It's me, Dan. Today I'm going to be reviewing a science fiction novel called The Ghost Brigades by John Scalzi. It is set in the Old Man's universe, and I'm going to change a little bit of my format for the video. I'm going to tell you up front if I think it's a good book or not and who it might be appropriate for, because I want to talk a little bit more in depth about the book, and so there's going to be some spoilers in this video, so that gives you a chance to turn it off if you haven't read the book yet. So anyway, is the book worth the read? Yes, it is. It's not a heavy lift book. It's not going to change your life or anything like that, or it doesn't have a particularly new spin about the themes that are in it. So there's no deep thoughts in it, but it's a fun science fiction book, and I think it's appropriate mostly for all ages. There is one scene in it that's like, I think it's a gratuitous orgy scene that's not necessary, but it doesn't go not described in any great detail. So maybe if you were younger than 11 years old, you may not be appropriate just for that one scene. Okay, so now I'm going to start talking about the book, so if you don't want to have some spoilers in it, it's probably time to turn off the video. Come back after you've read the book. So the story really is about cloning of humans and gene manipulation. So in the Old Man universe, what you do is you go to old people on Earth and you clone them a new body, and you say, look, I'll put you in this new augmented body so you can go fight the bad alien races in space in exchange for youth. And old people say, yeah, okay, I'll do that. So you take their brains, their thoughts, their memories, and you implant it through this process into a clone, and then they go off and fight your wars. Okay, that's the basic story of Old Man's War and the universe of that John has set up. So in this particular novel, the humans' top scientist, a guy by the name of Charles Boutin, B-O-U-T-I-N, has decided to defect to the alien race. And the Colonial Defense Forces, which are the human forces, are worried that he's going to give the aliens an edge and they're going to kill humans. So they're trying to figure out what's he going to do. In an act of desperation, what they discover is that this scientist has developed a way basically to take the human soul, your personality and all that, your memories, and store it on a hard drive, which has never been done before. Typically in this universe you have to do a direct person to cloned empty brain, alive, corpsey type of thing. So it's a direct transfer, but now this scientist has figured out a way to store you on a hard drive. So they take this storage memory of the scientist Charles. They create a new clone of him and they try to implant Charles into this clone. The idea being then they could wake him up and go, hey dude, what are you doing? And question him about his plans. But that would be the end of the novel, probably, if that worked. So it doesn't work, and instead they dub this clone Paul Dirac, and they send him off to the Ghost Brigades. Now the thing about the Ghost Brigades is these are basically clones that are specifically grown and they are not implanted with old people's memories and experiences, so they're blank slates and they are trained and sent to go fight in these wars. So it's really, they're 3 to 5 year old kids in adult bodies fighting wars. So Paul is attached to that, and he goes off in the Ghost Brigades and starts to fight in their wars. Now the interesting thing about the Ghost Brigade members is that to compensate for their lack of maturity and experience is they've been implanted in their brains a thing called a brain POW, which allows them to communicate mentally with each other, see through each other's eyes, have the same shared experiences in a way that regular humans can't, and in theory that makes them better fighting forces. Okay? But overall the story is a little bit predictable. Again, there's the one random orgy scene which I don't think is really necessary. But you know off the bat, once you start, you get the basic concept of the story that the clone of the scientist is eventually going to remember some or all of the scientist's thoughts. You just know that as soon as they start saying, we're going to clone the scientist. And you also kind of know that the clone is going to have to meet the original scientist at some point, and there's going to be some sort of confrontation. So that's pretty predictable. The other thing about this novel is that there are some themes in it that you would think could have been better developed and explored to make it a deeper science fiction novel, but it's really just, this is in the course of the novel that just says, well, this is what's going on, but there's no real ethical or moral look at these types of themes. So I mean, just to give you some example, cloning in general, that could have been a theme that was explored. Is it right? Is it wrong? And it wasn't. It was just, yeah, we clone people. Killing off an entire alien race as a goal. They could have explored that. I mean, we have a lot of instances in our human history. For example, Native Americans, where people thought, well, let's get rid of all the Native Americans during the day. Obviously the Holocaust and things like that. So, but that wasn't really explored either. The use of children to fight wars. So the colonial defense forces literally using toddlers to fight wars. But we know in the world that people use child soldiers. So again, that right or wrong theme is not really explored within the context of this novel. And that's why I say that it's really no deep thought, but it is still a fun novel to read. I did have a couple of, let's talk about the ending just real quick. There's a couple of things about the ending that also were predictable, and well, one of them wasn't predictable, it was just very strange, but it really didn't wrap up the novel all that well for me. But the first was that, so again, this is a big spoiler, so if you haven't read the book, you might want to stop watching. So the last mission in the book is they're going to go to the alien open world. They're going to steal the crown prince slug of the ruling queen so that they can then blackmail the Oban into peace. That's the idea. So they get a hold of this slug baby and they get back up into space, and they're telling the queen, you will do what we tell you or we're going to kill the slug baby. And she goes, oh, don't kill him, you cruel humans, don't kill my slug baby. Yes, we will kill it. Okay, I will capitulate and give you what you want. Okay, now we have to kill the slug baby. What? So the logic of it just like, woo! And so now you kill the slug baby, and then you say, haha, now you have no heir, even though you just capitulated to save this slug baby. But now you have no heir, so now you have to marry somebody that we like, and he's going to be drive the Oban into a, is it the Oban? There's two races here, I get them mixed up a lot. But we're going to drive this race into being more friendly to the humans. So the logic of that whole bit, we're going to blackmail you with your kid, and then when you say yes, we kill the kid anyway, and then make you marry somebody you don't want to marry. Really a bizarre bit of the novel that makes no sense to me. The other part is that, you know, I had a creative writing instructor in college who once told me, when you write yourself and kind of into a corner, the easiest way to get out of it is just start killing off everybody, and then the story ends. I think, as she put it, shots ring out and they all fall dead. Anyway, but all that said, it's still an entertaining story. If you like science fiction, you're going to like the book. Just don't expect it to be this earth-shattering, deep philosophical, unpredictable thriller of a novel. It's none of those things. It's just a fun science fiction book. So. Now, what I thought I'd do is while I was reading this book, I was thinking the universe that John has created was very similar to the universe that I write in, called Dryden universe. And that was interesting to me because I know that there's this cultural groupthink where the same shared ideas somehow make their way across great distances in cultures, and you think that you have this original idea, and the next thing you know, you don't. Everybody is thinking about it. I don't understand that mechanism, but it's a fascinating mechanism about how information and concerns and filter through cultures. Maybe someday I'll be lucky enough to talk to a professor that deals with human culture and can try to explain that mechanism to me. But I did see it while I was reading this novel. For example, let's talk about space travel. In John's world, the old man's universe, he has a skip drive, and in the Dryden universe we have a thing called the frame drive. So, but both of those used folds in space, this concept of that space is folded, to travel faster than light. It's a little bit different with a frame drive in that what the frame drive does in the Dryden universe is it grabs a fold in space and follows it kind of like a kid going down a slide. And that's how you go faster than light. You're not physically going faster through light, you're kind of cheating. The skip drive actually goes faster than light, but it still uses this folding network in space concept. I also think that the frame drive is a little bit more developed because we had limitations when we were coming up with the frame drive concept in Dryden. What we didn't want a spaceship to travel at 2, 3, 4, 5 times the speed of light and smack into a planet and use that as a kinetic weapon to destroy the planet, because then nobody would be safe anywhere. So we looked out and we said, well, we think that planets create their own gravity wells. They warp space because of their mass, and if you're stuck in that gravity well, you cannot use your frame drive. You can't grab onto the folds of space. So that meant you can't fly into a planet and just destroy it kinetically. Now in the Old Man universe, I got the impression that you can travel faster than light onto a planet, because there was a little blurb in here at one point that said a good pilot could land the spaceship on the planet's surface. So a little bit different twist to the same concept though. Now the other thing that's interesting for me is that in the Old Man universe there's a plethora of alien life forms, kind of more Star Trek-y. In the Dryden universe there's almost no higher alien life forms. It's one of the great mysteries of the Dryden universe, although we as the writers know the two reasons for that, but that hasn't necessarily been revealed at this point in anybody's writing. Nobody's written that story yet. So it's basically, in the Dryden universe, humans against humans in these big corporations and the struggles that they have for economic dominance. There are alien races. There's a long dead alien race that was technologically advanced. They find the remnants of that civilization in one of the stories. And then there's a alien race that they run into at the edges of human space that there's a brief conflict in, and you can find that story in Origins, for example. And then there's the Europan, which lives on Europa, but nobody's even sure if that thing's intelligent. So again, it's a universe devoid of aliens, which is kind of what we're experiencing now. Why don't we see alien life everywhere we look? And right now, in the technological search for alien life, it's because we think maybe our technologies aren't strong enough, or we're using the wrong technologies, looking in the wrong place, that type of thing. But we've taken that emptiness of space and expanded it in the Dryden universe, where the Old Man universe, there's alien races. Okay? The other thing is, so we're both interested in cloning and augmenting humans. So in both universes you have clones, not so much in Dryden, but you do have it. And then you have augmented humans, change your eye color, your hair color, how tall you are, get rid of genetic diseases, that sort of things exist in both worlds. And that's really an important discussion in today's world, because we're beginning to do stuff like that. If we wanted to, we could clone humans. If we wanted to, we can mess around with their genome and see what happens. So there's a lot of ethical and moral issues for humans at this point in this nascent technology of cloning. But in the Dryden universe, it relies more so on juice and nanobots, which take existing human bodies and modifies them to be stronger or whatever. So in the Old Man universe, where they modify bodies and then implant your personalities, your members into it, so you get you can have superhumans and strange humans in this universe, where in the Dryden universe you don't get that for the most part. Now, of course, I do have there's a cloning program, an experiment in the Dryden universe. That's what my novel Akuta, my new novel that's going to come out soon, explores, but that's a rarity. So the other thing is combat. Is that in the Dryden universe, so far it's mostly a version of air-land battle doctrine is applied, so it's try to maintain some continuity in warfare and how it's developed to today, and push that out into the future and imagine how those principles can be used in the future with different technologies. So it's a little bit more developed in military theory and practice in the Dryden universe than it is in Scalzi's universe. So as I was saying, the big difference in the Dryden universe over Scalzi's universe is that airland battle doctrine, which was primarily a military doctrine in the 80s and early 90s, that was designed to fight a major war against the Soviet Union, pretty much, are projected into the future, and those principles and tactics and strategies are explored using different technologies. In the Old Man universe, there's none of that. There's no higher military theory in this at all. So the only tactic, and again this is a spoiler, the tactic that's used in this book is climbing a tree. That's not a real military tactic. It's not, reverse slope defenses or anything like that that you would find in a Dryden novel that deals with combat. The other thing is combat in the Dryden universe is much more brutal. There's more of an emotional toll to it. You can't just kill somebody and go, like you were swatting flies. It has an effect on people. Where in the Scalzi novels, it tends to have less of an emotional toll on somebody. It's more like playing a video game. The space combat is also much more developed in Dryden. The Dryden universe navies are basically very similar to World War II navies, and those tactics and processes are consistent with what you would have found in the Second World War, which in modern history is basically the last time there were big naval battles. So we go back and we look at that and we try to project that forward into how does that become space combat. Again, not really an explored thing in the Old Man universe. Now, the other thing that is a fundamental difference is that in the motivation of human beings, the Old Man universe is a little less clear than it is in Dryden. But in Dryden, we're interested in the power of corporations and what that means for human society, and the way that corporations can abuse or enhance societies. So it's a much more focused social look at that aspect of humanity, which in a time of mega international corporations that we're living in today is a theme that runs across lots of science fiction novels, and you find people talking about it in the news and in other venues as well. So, but for me, again, these themes and these texts are very, very similar, and that strikes me, that cultural groupthink that I like to see every once in a while because it's a fascinating idea for me. And so when I was reading Ghost Brigades, I really saw those similarities, and it made me enjoy the novel much more, because it's nice to know that other people are thinking about these issues in our societies and our time, and trying to figure out what does it mean for us and for our children and grandchildren. So with all that said, it's time to wrap up this video. Don't forget, if you like it, to give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends, put comments below, talk about your favorite science fiction books, and I will see y'all